Welcome to the August 3rd meeting of the Andrews Community Forest Committee. We were just off mic for the last 90 seconds. We have a quorum. This is our makeup meeting from last week, which would have been in July. We appointed me, Sam Pratt, as the timekeeper and Sonia as the minutes taker. And we just unanimously approved the June 22nd minutes. Next up, additions or changes to the agenda. Okay.
Do we like extra comments section coming up? I forgot it. Or is that it with the additions or changes?
That's pretty much it. But yeah, I mean, there's matters arising, at the end. Also, if there's like, something that's, urgent that doesn't fit into one of the topics we have currently, then we can certainly bring it up. Yeah, depending on, like, usually time sensitive stuff, like can be added, but if it's not time sensitive, then
Should be no.
usually needs to be warned.
Well, maybe in the full disclosure mode.
Sure, yeah,
I
I think I know what you're gonna mention, and that might fall under recruitment.
Couple, yeah.
So yeah,
Couple of
yeah.
us know about this, but I'm gonna have to be leaving the committee because have to be leaving the town, unfortunately. My wife,
The feds are off.
you what?
The feds are off for you?
Yeah, this sounds against your
And you-
will.
I know, you can run, but you can't hide, they say, and it is true, I will tell you.
Sir.
Yeah, no, my wife's health issues, it's time to get out of that house, so too many stairs. So anyway, we're gonna be moving 18th to the 20th of this month. And
To where?
the Burlington downtown,
It's nearby.
we're gonna be the city mouse for a while. Very different, very different.
Wow,
Much
this is
smaller.
jarring.
Yeah, so anyway, because of that, I'm gonna have to resign the committee after this meeting, I believe. Once. We technically moved in on the 20th, so I missed the next one, but as a member.
Yeah, the next meeting is on the
Right.
24th.
Oh, we
I mean, I'll
might-
still
give
pay
trees.
attention to all this, because my heart's been in it for years, literally.
I think the select board has to accept your
Yeah.
departure and you might get a couple more meetings out of it. I think, I'm just,
I don't know if the rule is you're
Right.
just a resident.
Mm.
Yeah, it's probably worth following up on. I can look into it and see
Yeah,
what the deal is. I mean, what I can say, I know that some committees have, at least the Trails Committee, they have a non-quorum, non-voting member who does not live in Richmond.
Ben.
Yeah, Ben.
Yeah,
And so I was thinking about it, and I think the only real benefit to having a member like that is they can sort of
Add their wisdom.
yes, exactly. You can add your wisdom and, speak amongst, all the conversation that happens like with the other members of the committee rather than needing to wait for public comment. But yeah, I mean, if you had that kind of role, you don't have to the quorum and you can't vote. So, but yeah, I guess like considering that, I mean, I can clarify, if you'd like to remain involved. I feel like I'd have to look into it, but I feel like it's possible for you to be sort of like a, correspondent or maybe even like take part in working groups or,
yeah.
or something like that. So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, I know that other members of the community, have like from Bolton and, Williston and, other locations have like sat in on our meetings. And I think the same thing happens in select board meetings. So I don't know how far that goes, if it's just like, you were mostly just supposed to be able to comment as a member of the public, or if you can be involved in like small group discussion to help sort of come to a consensus on like certain topics, like if you wanted to help develop the wildlife monitoring plan or something,
right.
so I feel like that would be okay, but I should definitely do a little research to make sure that we're not stepping out of line, if you'd like to stay involved, but I mean, you've done a tremendous amount of work.
No
and
idea.
You will be sorely missed, especially as the co-chair. I feel like now suddenly the full weight of chairing is on me.
This has just been warm up.
I guess.
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, so you will definitely be missed, but hopefully we'll still see you around.
Yeah,
Honey,
I'll miss you guys. So,
Mm.
yeah. Cool.
yeah, I mean, Richmond's gonna be worse off not having you around, so hopefully you're enjoying.
It's not universally held. I don't think.
I'll miss you.
Mm,
I guess
thanks.
I can't speak for all of Richmond, but.
Yeah, the RMT is out in front of the house, ready to help you move.
Mm.
I'm helping you vote.
Yeah, I know you are. You've been Really,
Pushing you out of the neighborhood.
you've been very helpful.
Mm.
Brad, I just think, you've given so much to this committee, this town, I mean, I just think a huge amount of thanks. Go to you,
Thank you.
I think we should
Thanks.
second that, motion, make a
Mm,
motion there,
yeah,
say
yeah.
something really nice to Brad.
No, it's been great working with you guys. Too. A great note to go out on, to leave a group like this.
How long have you lived here in Richmond?
30, 40 years.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah. Ethan Allen was,
Yeah.
sold us the house.
Well, yeah, as much as I'd like to linger on this and, I think that, yeah, this is a good segue into, item B, which is,
Right.
the personnel and recruitment. So as we know, we've lost a few members, just simply because they turned out. And we haven't had a trails representative for over a year now. So right now we are at 6 members. By next meeting, we will be at 5, which means we'll be at a bare quorum, which means every single one of us will need to be present for us to meet. And, if somebody has to leave early or can't make a meeting, then we will not be able to hold a meeting. I mean, technically, you can meet and not record and not take minutes, but that's not advisable. You can't make any, decisions on behalf of the committee, and people tend to get fussy as you get close to a quorum and are not, recording and morning meetings. So like, we generally try to avoid that anyway and keep, working groups to smaller numbers, like 2 or maybe 3 members. Which is a few less than the quorum of 5. So that said, I think that we should all be thinking about either people we know who we think might be a good fit for this committee, or ways that we feel like we can and should broadcast, to the community at large that we are looking for members, because we are going to have 4 vacancies. So we'll have 2 at-large seats, 1 trails representative seat, which has to be somebody on the trails committee. And then Brad's seat that he's vacating is the Conservation Commission recommendation, meaning that they don't have to be on RCC, but they do need to they need to apply. RCC will review the application and tell the select board whether or not they wish to have that person be a recommendation to this committee. So
To the chair, conservation.
right.
Related to this, we should also think about, as time goes on, if we can't get us back up to the full size of the committee, consider reducing the size of the committee to perhaps 7, I'm not proposing that, but
So
Others-
yeah,
that's what other committees in town have done.
Yeah, and some have been, eliminated entirely.
Right.
But yeah, we could do that. What RCC has is RCC is a 7-member commission with 2 alternates.
Right.
Meaning they're appointed, they're non-voting, non-quorum members unless there is 1 person absent.
Right.
So basically, the alternate can take the role of a voting member as long as you're under quorum.
Right.
So I've never seen a meeting where we had 2 alternates and 1 absence where they had to choose who's the alternate, but basically you just slot right in, if somebody's not there and there's an alternate, then that's another thing that we could consider. I feel like I'd like to, well, I don't know, I guess we could talk about, I don't want to linger on this too much because we've got a lot to talk about today, but we also might want to consider the benefits of requesting that the committee is reduced in size versus us trying to recruit back up to 9. What I can say, just from experience in the last couple of years, is the more people that you have in a room, the harder it can be to have conversations. They tend to drag on. Maybe some of that reflects on the chair, because if you really need to keep the conversation moving, otherwise there's a lot of back and forth, and it sometimes can be hard to come to consensus if everyone wants to talk out every last point of something. So there are also advantages to smaller groups as well. I feel like even with RCC with 7 members, we tend to drag on sometimes. So I'm not opposed to us asking the select board if we yeah, that we might like to go down to 7, but I think we would want to vote on that. If I think for now, maybe we see we're kind of at a critical point. It could be that there's some interest in the community. And I don't think we want to shut out people who want to be part of the committee, right? So maybe we do a little bit of outreach, and if we feel like nobody wants to be on the committee, then we talk to the select board about reducing the number from 9 to 7. So those are things to be considering. There were a couple of potential just recruitment recruitment language for either a front porch forum posting or for the Times Inc. We could review those, or yeah, I don't know if we necessarily need to approve one, but those, I just, included those in the packet as something that we might want to consider sending out. Just to give people an idea of here's what we do, and what you might expect if you joined.
I liked your short version.
These were
Somebody-
actually, yeah, Brad actually wrote these. I like them both too. Yeah, I don't know if we necessarily need to go into like all the details. I think the short one's good.
Girls Committee?
This is
Forest.
Forest.
Yes.
Hi, how you doing? See you, bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be back, don't worry.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I guess if the short version looks good, then we can. Yeah, send something out like that. I mean, I guess we should try to, I would like to at least get one more person appointed, because we do know that it takes some time. To have somebody, consider and then apply, and then it goes to the select board, and the select board needs to appoint the person. I think because. Yeah, I don't think we're really. Expected to review the applications, although we might get them, but in any case, even if somebody applied today, I guess maybe if the timing was right, we might have them by next meeting. But once we lose Brad, we'll be at the bare quorum, and so I think we want to start thinking now about, how can we, get, at least one person, so that way. If we do have one person who's sick, or can't make a meeting or forgets or whatever, that we're not all just sitting here waiting for, however many minutes until we realize, oh, I guess we're not gonna meet tonight. And then needing to, reschedule, that's just a drag for everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess for now, I'll just say, I'm comfortable sending out this text, or something very close to it on the front porch forum to see if we get any folks applying. And meanwhile, I would just encourage everyone here to consider anyone that they think might be a good fit. And if so, reach out and just see if they want to have a conversation. If you want to have that conversation, because you know them, I would encourage you to do that. If they feel like they want to talk, with me, I'd be happy to make myself available too, if they want to talk to me as the chair.
I think-
But-
I've tried a few times with. I think having the ability to talk to you would be really helpful.
Yeah, and I'm happy, I mean, feel free to share my contact info, email or phone, and tell folks that they're welcome to reach out, or if you talk to somebody, you can just send me an email and CC them or something, and then,
Yeah.
I'd be happy to let folks know, like, yeah, here's what you can expect, and here's how things have gone.
We could put this on the webpage too.
Yeah, that's probably,
Message.
that's a good idea.
Yeah, so if we picked one of these, would we then just like pass it to Duncan and he would?
We could just, I think we could just post it, I could double check, but I think that we're just promoting, the fact that there are vacancies and. People can choose to apply, that goes through Duncan anyway, so we're basically just letting people know, hey, there's openings, here's what you could expect if you join. And, that's that.
So should we just pick one of these? I think they both look great, but if the short one is shorter, I
Yeah,
would say let's let's do the short one.
Definitely for times, or for front porch, it ought to be short, I think.
Yeah,
Most of those things are really short.
okay, so I'll post that to Front Porch Forum, this week, and then maybe if we don't hear anything, like, in a few weeks or something, just because timing matters sometimes. I know I don't need every issue of Front Porch Forum, so,
I can ask Duncan if you want, stick it on the web page.
yeah.
Which is, I'll tell you, it's another outstanding item.
Yeah, I guess we
Yeah.
should circle back on that,
I mean, at some point, it's not critical, but we've. I don't know, 2 months ago, we probably or maybe even 3, finished the dual approach to the web
Yeah.
pages. You were around for that, I think, wasn't that many, but the idea being we'd have a committee page, which would be all kind of committee business, and a forest page, which would be more, there's a whole separate section on the town website for more kind of facility sort of stuff, and the forest is a facility.
Yeah.
And like Volunteers Green, I think is there, should be natural, but the forest stuff over there. You know, the trail finder and all that good stuff.
Sam, do you want me to re-engage with the Trails Committee? About,
You're welcome to. I've asked a few times, like, in various, I've mentioned it when attending meetings, I've mentioned it via email. I've mentioned it to folks in person. And I haven't gotten any traction,
all right,
but you're welcome to ask again. I mean, I don't know if maybe it's just sort of like, if we're persistent enough and remind them. But because we have 2 at-large seats open now, it might be easier to recruit. We have a very small pool to pull from for the trails representative seat, but for large seats, it could be anybody, right? So. Yeah.
So we have 2 at large
Yeah,
and 1 conservation recommended.
yeah, and 1 trails representative.
Okay. Right, that we need to fill.
Yeah, exactly.
And Julian was representative.
He was just an at-large. Chase was the
Chase
representative.
was, I guess.
Jim is the
Oh,
recommendation,
good, okay, oh, so good.
Yeah.
Okay, super,
and then I'm the RCC representative.
yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on, but yeah, just something to be thinking about. And I'll post that, and Brad or I will reach out to Duncan and see if we can get that posted on the website. So moving on. Just quick recap on Multiflora Rose. So a couple months ago, we talked about having a workday, but then that didn't really materialize, and that was mostly my fault. And then we talked about it last meeting, which would have been like second to last week of June or the 22nd, about doing it on July 25th. I was a little underprepared, having been out of town for a couple of weeks, but Jim and I got together and did some scouting.
we got one out.
Yeah, we got one little patch out. It was probably like, I don't know, what, like 10 by 15 or 8 by 15 or something, a little patch just near the parking lot. If you just walk 50 feet, not even up from the parking lot, you'll see what we did. And man, is that really, really hard work. And I don't know if it's appropriate for that to be a workday unless we're really well organized, just considering the amount of effort, it's I don't wanna call it demoralizing, but it's like, it was a challenge, and it's a lot of work, and it's very thorny, and you need like very thick gloves, so you don't, get poked with the thorns. And there's a lot of it, and I think that.
It went way better than I thought it would, honestly. I thought it was gonna be so much worse, as bad as it was. I thought it was gonna be basically impossible.
Were you cutting,
We were
did.
cutting and pulling and
like,
just,
try to get the roots out too?
We did not try to get the roots out. We basically what we did is we kind of went into the bramble on like the backside, so we were like facing the path. And then we basically started to push up against it to try to expose some of the roots. And then we had long handled like loppers and like pruners that we were able to use to get to the base of the plant. But then we had to keep pushing it. So eventually what happened is Jim ran over to Maple One Farm to grab a shovel to like pull at the mass of thorns while I was on the other side, like cutting at the bottom. But you need really, really long handled stuff to get to the base. And that will not pull out until you got every single last shoot.
It's so tangled.
So yeah, it was really tangled and yeah, it just left us wondering whether or not it would make more sense to. At least that section to just brush hog it or to, I don't know, or to do a reverse approach where we start at the top. Where we basically scout out where it is, like. As far north as we can find it and work our way down. Because those are the places where the seeds are gonna continue to disperse into the area of the forest that is relatively untarnished by invasive species right now. And so that was our thought, is maybe like, we just need to do a little bit more coordinating and. Perhaps even see like these, I don't know, just like big nasty patches, so we were trying to get creative about like, okay, could we get. Some like heavy machinery in here to just pick up the whole like bundle of like thorns and then to like put it in a dump truck or something, but then we could like, drive right to the. Vermont composting facility in Richmond, because like. It's just,
Can we handle it, so we get chat.
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it's definitely a challenge and I think we learned, a few things, but I think. Yeah, we're gonna have to think about it more carefully and also, I don't know. Right now, full disclosure, RCC is talking about like trying to figure out whether or not, they recommend. Herbicide use for like specific types of applications or invasive species. Based on what we did and the fact that we would have to go back for like 4 times a year to cut back the rows and to do that for, like 3 years or something. After doing just one, short session with Jim. I was immediately convinced that we should be doing like stump cut treatment and just hit it with some glyphosate, cut it, treat it, and then forget about it. But I think that, we would need somebody with an applicator's license. I don't think the test is that hard. I know a few people that have it. I could also probably get a license, but also because it's on town land, we'd want to make sure that we're, doing things by the book and not just, willy-nilly running in there and starting to like apply herbicides, So,
I came to the same conclusion years ago with knotweed. Over
Yeah.
on the river, couple August days of trying to cut that and get it out of there. And bring on the roundup for rodeo,
yeah, even with
Boy,
a
I
really big
swear.
group, yeah, it would be hard. I mean,
Crunchy attitude.
yeah. I mean, it can be done if you can organize, really big groups of people and do it consistently.
Consistent.
Yeah, Susanna Zebeloff, independent of RCC, although she is a commissioner, has been organizing a Phragmites removal project on the Bounties land, and it's been pretty successful so far. I mean, they have a huge amount of Phragmites, and it's very intimidating, but when you get 10 plus people out there for, 4 to 8 hour workday, like you can make a big dent. And so you can actually see through that big wall of Phragmites. Now there's like a few spots where you can actually see the lawn. And it is going to be a multi-year project and herbicides are not being used for that project. But it is helping get rid of all the stuff that's encroaching on the lily pond. So it is possible, but also that is in some ways simpler because it's just a big stalk you have to sever with a spade versus, crawling into a tangled mass of thorns. And, I think there's just a lot more liabilities, especially for volunteers saying like, all right, come, prepared with like thick, coats and, thick leather gloves and safety goggles, like, so. I do want to keep moving forward with it because it's only going to get worse. I mean, the number of seeds that one plant can produce and the, viability of the seeds, it's like 20 years, up to 20 years for the seeds. And so it's just going to continue to spread. And we don't want people to walk into the town forest and be like, oh, great, here's just a big bramble patch, why would I want to be in here? So I think that we want to talk about it more, but,
Maybe the county forester would help.
yeah, I should talk to Brandon.
Yeah. Is it invasives or deer? I can't remember. The one phrase in the forestry plan with boldface basically says, if you want to keep that forest, you gotta, it's either take care of the deer problem, over browsing, or get the invasive. I think it's invasives. So you gotta go into those.
I found it was, oh, sorry, go ahead. I worked on one on our property and I was using an electric chainsaw,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is easier than loppers considered. it's faster, you're not subjecting your arms to. And then I put a chain around it ultimately and dragged it out with the tractor, so. But I cut it all down. Dabbed the
Mhm.
trunk, and then it started growing again.
Oh, really?
So I then, it's very tenacious,
Do you know what season that was that you removed it?
yeah, way too early.
Okay, cause yeah, my recommendation would be we do it in the fall,
Right.
and also I know that some invasive species like Asiatic bittersweet. Basically don't react to glyphosate, so it could be that. We would wanna consider using something stronger like Picopir. But that has because it's a different class of herbicide, there are different rules for application, and so, again, like I feel like. If we want to have that discussion, like I would like to, because I think that very. Careful use of herbicides is going to take care of the problem, and I think that's gonna, be well worth. Any risk, it's not like we're farming or doing anything there, and these are the types of treatments that folks like Ethan Tapper recommend. And other, so we can talk to the county forester and just kind of figure out if we feel like we want to move forward with that and whether or not we feel like it would be popular with the town, because we don't necessarily want to proceed with something like that and have there be a bunch of blowback, but I think it would be a net positive to get that stuff
What
out.
would be the ideal timing?
Fall,
Fall?
because that's when all the.
When in the
moisture getting
fall,
sucked
I'm
down
thinking
into
like
roots.
ticks, mowing, like what are the sort of. Fall, it's a great time to work outside,
Yeah,
but November can be a little cold. Like what are you thinking for?
How does it propagate? I mean, yeah, cause that might tie into.
I mean, it propagates both by seed and by the
Seed.
canes that come out of the plant, those big arching canes that just come out and then hit the ground and then just root.
So
And
you wanna get the hips. Right?
Yeah, I
Or
mean-
prevent the hips from becoming hips, so maybe before. While it's flowering, so it's put all that energy into that,
Yeah,
and you nail it, it's wasted that energy. And then if it comes back, maybe then let it waste it again, and although it's probably built, I don't know.
that is part of the trick, is it's like, if you wait until the fall, then, this is the same kind of thing I was thinking about with like brush hogging, right? We're just like, well, you might just spread a bunch of seeds if you brush hog. It would be easier to start from zero, if you mowed it down to the ground, then you could get it while it's small and, keep after it. But at that point, you're potentially spreading a ton of seeds, by mowing through it. If you take care of it in the fall, the herbicide is gonna be far more effective, because that's when all the moisture is getting drawn down into the root system. So whereas if you do it in the spring, that's the worst time, because it's pulling, exactly, so if you just dab the top of it. And then, it's sucking all that water out of the ground and pushing it out of the stem, then it's just gonna force all of that herbicide right out, and then it's basically, you haven't done anything, so. Timing does matter, but you have a great point, Jim, that, it is going to be very tricky if we decide to do it in the fall, and that's gonna be, just have to be something that people understand, like, if we're gonna go and do it. Then like, we're gonna have to be very vigilant about ticks, and maybe it's something that we just hire out. But I think that it is kind of the number one problem, as far as I can tell, in terms of invasive species in the forest, and we should continue to talk about this. But I think we just need to.
There's I
Yeah,
know there's at least one, maybe two in that Christmas tree meadow,
yes,
which. Are we gonna mow again?
Sure,
Okay.
yeah.
cool. That on,
Yeah.
should we mow that Christmas tree meadow as well, you think?
Yeah,
It feels like it'd be a good.
yeah, so we may not have to mow the meadow we mowed last year, or should we mow that again?
Oh, I was thinking just once a year, not down.
Oh, okay, all right,
I don't know,
good,
What do you
well, let's
think?
do that.
it's your backyard, so.
Mhm.
I think,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, stuff starts sprouting very quickly,
Okay.
yeah.
But it should be faster, there's not all those little trees to deal with.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, let's pick a time.
Okay, I wonder if, I guess it'd be good to know with the multiflora rose that's in that Christmas tree meadow. That we know what we're gonna do with it before we just drive a tractor over it and spread it around.
yeah,
Which that, I think last year that was early September,
Right.
we did it.
I can reach out to Brandon, Benedict, the county forester, and see what his recommendation is. In the meantime, I can also look into seeing how. expensive it would be to get licensed to be an applicator. I feel like that'd be helpful.
Yeah, that's
In
true,
general,
right?
and, yeah, then, you know,
Yeah.
if we had a work day, we could kind of divide up and have like, okay, we've got teams of people that are cutting stuff. And then we have folks who are just basically following up and dabbing, you know, so we can basically have a,
My takeaway from that day also was that with the right tools, with long clippers like you had and a good just metal tined rake to pull the bush away as it's cut, I think with a big group of people, we could make a huge dent.
Are you
Good.
talking that?
What's that?
They're about how long?
He had,
mine, it had like extended, like they basically, they're normal size, just shears for like, trimming like a hedge.
Yeah.
But the handles, are like telescoping
Oh.
and get twice as long, so the handles are like this long.
Wow.
That's how long of a handle you need. Because you have just normal sized, like, you know, what, 2 foot,
Yeah.
probably loppers, and those
That's-
were too short, you know, in some cases, so.
I've got some to donate in case of this.
If we're brush hogging it and we're good about going back every couple of years, we can just brush hog them.
well, is that the case or?
Quite possibly, the
I
question
think-
is whether or not we're worried about spreading the seeds, you know,
Right.
so. It could be,
I think we brush hogged a couple in that,
Oh, we certainly did.
if
We
we,
certainly did.
if we're brush hogging, I think the way that you wanna do it is you wanna brush hog it early and then just keep after it, so we basically get brush hogged like 3 or 4 times in a year, where basically, or. Cut down, you know, brush hogged once and then you come back with a chainsaw or loppers or whatever, and you just tire the thing out by constantly hitting it again and again. My fear with running over that stuff in the fall when you're mowing is that it's going to just spread seeds, and then we might end up with a bigger problem. I suppose if you're continuing to mow every year, then it should, you know, take care of itself, and you'll just always mow it down and it'll be able to take root. But I also don't know what the chances are that you mow it, seeds spread, birds eat the seeds, birds fly into, you know, some area of the forest that you're not brush hogging, and then we just. But I don't know, it's can't be any worse than just leaving the berries on the bush. Well, maybe. I don't know.
Probably better because birds are generally not. They typically don't, maybe they forage for berries on the ground. They do?
Sure.
Okay.
Some of them.
Yeah, I think we just need to know more, cause like also with those thorns, I don't know if birds would stay away from it, you know, it could
Right.
be that they don't wanna be on those bushes because they might get stabbed, and so if they're on the ground, maybe it's easier.
So. But that would be an early. That's what, a month and a half away.
I can reach out to Brandon now and to see what he recommends and basically say like, here's what we researched. Here's what we noticed on the ground, here's what we talked about, what would your recommendation be? Because we're kind of stuck between this, like, do we hit it, you know, in the spring before it seeds, like, what about existing plants now, can we brush hog them? What are your thoughts on, you know, herbicide treatment and whatnot? And-
How about if we plan on those bushes that are in that upper meadow, we'll just grab them with that grapple on the front of the tractor and maybe we can put them where that other,
Yeah,
if we don't have
Right.
a plan. we
that's
can
the other
always-
thing, is, yeah, if we organize a big work day, and even if we can make, you know, light work of removing all that stuff. We still need a place to dispose, you know, either we need to like have it sit and dry out. Or like, you know, can we bury it, like ideally we would bring it to the composting facility, but you need, it's a huge amount of mass, you know, it's just like, and they're, you know, they're just like thick tangled thorny, you know. Bushes, so.
I think if we brought the bushes to the access road,
Mhm.
the highway department with their excavator would grab them and pound them into a dump truck and bring them somewhere and dump them off.
Yeah, that would be my hope, is if we can
Right.
coordinate with them and basically say like, yeah, you know, can you do this, and then we can contact. The Vermont composting facility, they will compost invasives for free, but you have to tell them in advance. So we just have to coordinate with them and the highway department and basically work it out so that we've collected all the, you know, the matter somewhere. Highway department comes in, grabs it,
Right.
drives it straight over to the composting facility. So we just need to line that all up also with the workday. So we basically have workday. And then, you know, also coordinating with that would be potentially like using herbicides, if we wanna have this be more of a one and done, then like something we have to do 3 times a season. And then, coordinate with the composting facility and with the highway department. And so that's part of why. I think we're starting to formulate what we need to do here to like make this happen, and I think it's really worth pursuing, but it's just, there's just a lot of factors to consider, and I think we're a lot closer, and I appreciate that we were. Excited to try to move forward with this and just get something on the books, and, even though it was just like Jim and I there, we learned a ton, and like, I think that was much better than us. Just inviting a bunch of people to be like, hey, let's try to remove this stuff and not really know what we're doing, and then it kind of just looks bad and like we're, kind of disorganized, so. I think. We've got some good next steps.
What about the, Sonia, that initial strip, like where Sam and I were working that day, it's, your lawn on the other side of it. Is there a benefit to having an impenetrable hedge there for you? I know you talked about dogs. Cause we were thinking, should that be mowable? Should we try and plant trees? Like what is the end game
And what
for that
replacement?
space?
What is that, species who's on the very first several feet
Sure,
in between my backyard?
Oh, in the
Pat.
parking lot?
goldenrod maybe?
No, it's
Shrub.
bad,
Is
yeah.
it another bush? or
It
some-
grows extremely fast, like 7 feet a year.
Oh.
I
is it-
notified
is it
her.
not- is it snowy?
Say it again?
He said,
Oh,
not we.
say-
Knotweed?
I don't think-
probably
You think it's not?
Sort of looks like bamboo.
fake bamboo, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe it is not weed. I didn't realize there was not weed there. Well, I guess.
Is that it?
Look, I hope. not,
Anyway.
Because that's not.
I'll
It's-
send you a sympathy.
Awful, yes, yeah. It's awful, and, there's no
That's-
benefit.
And that's where? That's,
Right, the first 40 feet after the kiosk
yep,
on the right side. Is, super wide. No, it's not honeysuckle, the mowers won't mow it. Yeah, honeysuckle is
knotweed
really
is pretty
soft.
mowable, it's pretty soft. Doesn't
This is
make-
something different
So
than,
it's price.
This might be the
I heard it.
multi-rose.
no, it's
not
not,
that.
it's not thorny, no,
Okay.
it's, I
So hypothetically though, I mean, would that be mowable?
would love for that to be,
That's or,
He's got a really big tractor.
yeah,
Wow.
do it.
yeah,
I had guys come over for $1,000 to hack it all down. But this was when it was, like up to the ceiling,
Yeah.
high, yeah, after 2 years.
Oh,
Big leaf,
so between the kiosk and Meadow Meander entrance.
Yes.
Right?
yes,
Check that out.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like knotweed. It grows that fast and it's got a big leaf.
I think we would have seen that, that's right.
Yeah.
I've got knotweed radar. I hate that shit.
And so,
Um,
it grows very fast.
What about
Japanese
planting?
knotweed.
What about planting trees in there?
Yeah.
Something that.
Yeah.
That could,
yeah, that's something Jim and I talked about, is like maybe, what if we brush
That's what
hogged
it
it,
is.
kept up with the brush hogging, and then put in some like plantings along that basically row, just like right along the edge, so.
Privacy.
Yeah, privacy, and it's just like, the visual aesthetic, rather than just like right now, we have a big bramble of like multiflora rose and sumac and some barberry and maybe some knotweed, and so that is just,
not to add even more, but if we had a work day to deal with multiflora rose, could we also plant some trees, you think?
Wouldn't that be amazing? Yeah,
Yeah.
If you could try to shade it out.
yeah, we just wanna make sure that if we were gonna do that, that then we'd be following up and making sure that we're gonna beat back whatever's gonna try to outcompete.
Yeah.
Cause once they get to a certain height, they'll be fine, but it's that first,
Mhm.
6 to 8 feet that they're gonna need a lot of help, because, yeah, it's just a really thick. Kind of bramble there, but I think that would look really nice and also kind of help take care of some of that problem there. So I think we got a lot of good ideas. I don't wanna get too distracted by this, cause we got plenty of other
Yeah.
things to cover tonight. But I think this is all really helpful, and I think that we expect to, continue to talk about this once we have a few ideas. So I'll reach out to Brandon. And I'll also look into that herbicide applicators license thing, and then yeah, maybe see if I can coordinate with the highway department too. And then we can start to formulate a plan. Maybe we could even have a workday this fall, take care of some of the stuff, depending on what Brandon recommends.
Ask Brandon if he's a licensed applicator. Ethan is,
Okay,
but Ethan's too busy now, but as a county forester, he might be, if he's licensed, could help us.
okay, great, yeah, and that would be, I don't know.
John Carter's license too.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he
Yeah.
is, and I'm pretty certain, that Judy Rosofsky is.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know if she'd have any interest in helping out,
Yeah,
so, yeah, there are a few folks that we could ask about. Doing that. Cool, okay, we will move on then to, reviewing, public feedback from the June 29th select board meeting. So. Yeah, I included the MP2 public feedback summary in the packet. Sorry, there were a few typos or incomplete sentences in there. That was, mostly my notes, from the meeting, and then, Brad, added some time codes, to that, so you could read along with the meeting if you're watching it, and you may have made a few, corrections as well, or, updates to the notes, but yeah, I mean, we haven't talked as a committee since that meeting, so I'd be curious, what folks' thoughts are. I guess I'm gonna kind of reserve some of my own thoughts until I've heard what some other folks have to say about how they thought things went, and, what we think next steps should be. So I guess I'll, cede the floor to other folks, and then I'm happy to give my thoughts as well.
I thought it's a terrific meeting, because we heard voices all across the spectrum. Which is really important. I think that probably impressed the select board. Sometimes it was a little tough to sit there and not be able to answer. But, we were there to listen. I think that's a big step. Towards, coming up with an even better plan. If we're gonna revise, make revisions, hear everybody, figure out what to do. And not just for I thought the written comments were really good that came in as well. And plus the work that, John Cart, Bob Lowe sent in page by page, line by line suggestions to the plan. And Jeanette as well, followed up. So I think all that was good. Plus, I guess we've got RCC feedback too. Is that official?
Yeah, which I need to send. I guess I didn't send it today.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that.
There was a motion, it was like 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting and, basically. Approve, RCC, like the gist of it is the RCC supports the current management plan, but had a few like. Bigger suggestions for things that, they would like to see changed, like a paragraph about climate change, and it's like, I don't know, there are a few things, I could find it. But they were like general, like high level things, like, slightly more like welcoming, language. Like one thing that RCC really liked was, like the Q&A doc. They felt like at least some of that document felt a little bit more like welcoming and like conversational than the management plan, which is very dry and sort of matter of fact, and like not as welcoming to like the average user who's, who might want to read the plan. So yeah. But generally speaking, RCC, likes the plan, but just had some, suggestions for things that could be, some improvements that could be made. Nothing like major, but I think they're all helpful things that we should consider.
Yeah.
And so that's because Melissa Waller's on that now, right?
She is, yeah.
So she's obviously been a part of this. You're there. Who else is on the Conservation Commission now?
It's me, Jeanette, Judy's not on anymore, so it's me, Jeanette, there's a Jeanette Malone, Kit Emery, Trevian Stanger, Trevor Brooks, Susanna Zeveloff, and Melissa Walber, that's the full, no alternates currently.
We should have thought of this 3 weeks ago, is to have us. Or have somebody take all of the input that we received, the select board received and we received and. Put it into categories of. You know, it's 2/3 supportive, 1/3 supportive. We missed the mark. Consistently, people are saying we missed the mark on something. And that could be our next step, is to take that information and,
Is there more than this?
well, there were letters to the select board.
Where are those available?
Those got forwarded to me, and then I sent them to Brad, I don't know if they made their rounds, to the whole.
I think I sent them around.
I thought you did, yeah, I did collect them into one document and sent them, they weren't in the packet, but I thought they got emailed, I could double check,
Yeah, I was trying to find those.
I can resend them, but yeah, I thought they got sent out.
There's a lot of comments in the letters.
Yeah.
But then I was trying to find them and I couldn't locate them again.
Right.
Emailed comments, it was, looks like it was sent,
An email from you?
it was an email from Brad on July 15th.
Oh, yeah, oh, good.
At 8:29 AM, and there's a document.
Can you be a little more specific?
Yeah.
0.3.
Yeah, there's a document titled emailed comments on NP2 as of 7/8. And, yeah, it's basically got all the, at least at the time, all the feedback that we got via email, which was like, it was like 6 or 8 emails. And again, much like the public feedback meeting, it was. I feel like it was fairly split, you know, like I heard a lot from like.
Do you guys think there's like a different? The pie gets split differently if you were to sort of just talk to average Richmondites who are not taking that initiative to go to the meeting? Like, what would the town?
You'd have to,
How-
go ahead. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
you would have to get them up to speed, but I think that's,
Okay.
you also have to accept that not everyone is gonna be up to speed. Right,
Right.
and the way that you and I use town resources you might not understand every aspect of our water system, right?
Oh, yeah.
But you're still gonna use
Yeah.
it. And you still might have a valuable thing, so, I'm curious about that, there's a certain, selection that happens. When you ask folks to come to a meeting or to write in, feedback on management plan. That I do worry there's this group of people in town that do care, that have a little bit of an understanding of what's going on, but are not speaking up. And for me, I guess the question then becomes, do we as a committee still need to be cognizant of their needs and their opinions? Or do we focus on just the people who care enough to show up at that meeting and express their opinion? And where does our responsibility lie?
I think we take care of some of that. That's a good point. I think we take care of some of that with, all of our meetings are open to the public and all of our meetings are recorded and available to
Into perpetuity
I don't know about that, but.
on YouTube.
Yes,
But the same logic applies to that, not everyone is
right.
following up.
I don't watch select board meetings. I don't go, I look at the agenda and, you
And
know,
I would say that's interesting, right, cause you are very aware of town goings on, right, and as.
I'm interested,
You're interested,
but
yeah.
I don't watch select board meetings.
There's a lot of people who
Right.
are recreating in town, who, you know. do have opinions, maybe they're not as well educated as they could be or should be, but aren't really aware of some of the details in this management plan. Yeah, and again, I'm not saying, well, wow.
I'm gonna challenge you only as a friend.
Sure.
Because it's a hot topic in town. I think and people in town, I think people in town know. It's a hot topic, it's been a hot topic for, I don't know, 6 years, whatever it is. That people have had the opportunity, maybe we need to go back out and talk to the public
I think a
again.
lot of people have disengaged because of that too.
Okay,
How about
We're
talking to
seeing
people who come to the forest?
Yeah.
You sit out there with a long
Not,
stick.
I was just gonna say, I'm not sure how we identify them, but
Set them on
Yeah.
a stand. Yeah.
right,
And I'm not trying to drive,
yeah,
but I think it is, when we think about the feedback that we got and we say, we make conclusions about the sort of balance of, one thing versus another. I do feel like we have to remember that a lot of people, even a lot of people that made those comments aren't fully up to speed
Right.
on what, on what it means in all these minutia of the management plan. So I don't know, it's tricky, right? As
Yeah.
could we,
representatives of this community, we are,
Yeah. We do refer to the surveys that were done way early in the process, about what's how do you see it? I think literally it said balance, how do you balance wildlife versus recreation? That was a 50-50 split. And then they got into what modes of recreation are important to you. And there's a bar chart that shows all those. Somebody wanted to have swimming up there. So we got to work on that, guys.
but again, I think, there was a fairly small group of people.
It was a good number, but
Right.
you couldn't say it was scientific, a random. Gallup poll sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's also, I think, something to consider here is. Yes, it's. In one way, we only really have to go, well, all we have to go off of is the feedback that we're getting from people who are, chiming in. However, this happens with the select board, and this is part of why they wanted to do like a two-stage feedback, where we did our first meeting, and they want to have a second one, that maybe it's a public hearing, maybe it's just another feedback meeting, but. Something that like I've learned from the select board is that a lot of the time, people will not get engaged until the point that the select board has passed something, like think about the stop sign.
Sure.
Stop sign on, Cochrane Road. A lot of people did not pay attention to that and could have showed up to the select board meeting, but then didn't until they were all frustrated about the fact that there was gonna be a stop sign and nobody, or, a bunch of people didn't want it, and then there had to be a town vote and all that. So I think that we do need to try to be aware of what we think Richmond on the whole wants, even if we're not getting. If we're not getting feedback from everybody, we still have to do our best to try to guess like what we think the will of Richmond as the whole is, because if all we did was listen to the people that are giving us feedback. But if we had a strong suspicion that that wasn't an accurate reflection of what we thought the community is, we might go all the way down to the point where like it gets passed by the select board, and then suddenly there's a huge amount of people saying like, how could you possibly move forward with this plan? Like, why are you doing X, Y, or Z? And then, something similar could happen where there's, a petition or whatever. And so it doesn't always line up. And I think that the select board runs into this a lot, and I think that's part of why they set things up the way they did, because they're trying to get people talking, they're trying to get people engaged. The more this is getting airtime, the more it's on, a select board agenda, or people are talking about it, the more likely people are to get, re-engaged if they've checked out.
Same with the planning commission, the town plan.
Yeah.
And that future land use map,
Mhm.
that deal, that went down, that brought on a lot of people. But the town plan itself is supposed to reflect, everything gets to vote on. And I don't know.
And it's not ordinance, so.
No,
To say, yeah, I support.
it's an interesting question. It's on everything that the town does, right? What's going on over there tonight? Right? It's it's always, whose ox is being bored. It's one of the principles of, who comes out.
Right.
But in the meantime, we have what we do have, which is public meeting and all these letters. Should,
Yeah, we got it.
I think try to digest all of those thoughtful.
Yeah.
Synthesize them.
Yeah.
Maybe that will bring out more,
And then publish it. Perhaps. The results of what we're hearing.
Yeah, and how we intend on moving forward, because I think. So one of my issues with how things went down was, and we were there to listen. And so I guess we weren't making any calls like right there in the moment, but we need to figure out how to move forward. I tried to ask the select board at the end of that meeting what they wanted us to do next, and they didn't really give us any like concrete.
did they ever
steps.
tell you, like,
No.
afterwards?
I even asked them, I asked them privately, like individually, like after the meeting, and didn't get any next steps. So it's up to us to figure out what we were hearing and how we should move forward in a way that we feel like the next time we have a meeting, that we have hopefully more consensus. Cause like one risk would be like, okay, we make some tweaks and like we end up getting more complaints, Ideally, what we want to do is be able to like adjust the dial just slightly enough that like we feel like it's mostly people saying, I like this, I was just hearing, I feel like it almost felt like every other person talking was like, I like this plan a lot, I'm in support of it. And then the next person being like, this is missing the mark, for one reason or the other. And so I feel like what we want to do is try to get to a place where there's a little bit more like harmony there. And so that when the select board goes to approve the document, that they feel like they're not going to get a bunch of blowback from the community. Because as of right now, I'm not convinced that if we pressured the select board to approve the plan as is right now, I don't think they would sign it. I don't think that they are ready to approve the plan as is. So I think we
Have you heard that?
No, but I have very strong suspicions. I could be wrong, and we could just say like, we heard the feedback, and we feel like it's split enough that like, we think that we found the right compromise, and we're expecting sort of like a half good, like half bad, kind of feedback. And so, based on that, we could tell them, we're gonna like push this forward and see, whether or not they'd like to like to approve it, but I feel like they're gonna say, we'd like to see a few things change before, before we do that. I mean, I think that at the very least, Greg had mentioned, and that was like in the notes, that he wanted to see like a little bit more information about neighboring properties and, getting like a little bit more scope on some of that stuff. Also, hey, Mark, how you doing?
Good, I was next door, so I figured.
Glad to have you.
Thank you.
So,
What's your name for the minutes?
Merrick Gillies, MERRS, GILLIPS.
Thank you.
yeah, I guess my notes were a little bit vague here. Greg at the end of the meeting, it's on the second to last page at the bottom. My note was offsite status and where they are. He was asking about adjoining properties, like where they are in relationship to the forest and, what, connectivity purpose they may serve, but, from a wildlife or trail connectivity perspective, SIP being important for both, Crowco being important for wildlife, BYCC being important for, probably wildlife and trails. Maplewood Farm, being important for trail connectivity. The Kelly's land, and so that was one thing that we did get from somebody from the select board on, what they would like us to do to move forward. But ultimately, I think it's on us to, find a way forward that's going to be, it's gonna be, more, I guess, more widely popular. You know, so that when we have another meeting, we're hearing more positive comments. And less of like a 50-50 split, because like I walked away from that meeting, and I guess I didn't tally up every single person and whether or not I felt like they were for the plan or against the plan. But to me, it felt like I walked away being like, okay, well, there are a lot of people like this, and there are a lot of people that don't like this, and so we need to figure out how to make it so that more people like it without, you know, alienating some of the people that currently like it. So,
Well, is that our job then? You know, I mean, do we have a political objective here? Or is that maybe the select board's job to take the political? I mean,
Well, let's-
we came up with a plan. That, you know, basically is designed to match the uses of different parts of the forest, right? To the capacities of those parts of the forest to handle.
I think we,
It's a different thing.
we're here to represent the town. Right, we're here to
Well,
represent
we're
the.
advisory to the select board, they make the final decision.
we are, but the select board does not typically like. They like proposals that they can act on.
Oh,
They're,
sure.
in my experience. They are not a big fan of us going to them, whether it's me, you know, representing the forest committee, or it's me representing the conservation commission.
Yeah.
If I show up to a select board meeting and I say like, hey, what should we do? They've got so much on their plate that like they can't know every detail of everything and know exactly how things should proceed. So yes, we are an advisory body in that we are not making the rules and everything has to go through the select board, but they are relying on us to make these hard decisions and try to advise them on how we think they should proceed. So I think that, I mean, I can follow up with the select board, either individually or get on their agenda and say, hey, we'd like some more information on how you'd like us to proceed, but I feel like they wanted us to have that we asked for the feedback session, and they suggested 2, and that was part of their thought was that, you know, we'd start to air some of the you know, some of the feedback that the public has about the plan, and so that we can start to act on it. But for us to, I think, sit in that meeting, unless it was like all entirely positive, I feel like for us to just sit in that meeting, listen to the feedback, and then walk away and say, yeah, we're not gonna change anything, is like a little bit,
Right,
I don't know, just feels like a little bit callous, or like we're not actually listening to the community.
right.
And like Wright was saying, let's review it, let's, you know, collate the how we identify the different types of input and feedback and determine which ones are just, you know,
Is
we
that-
don't feel.
Just to be devil's advocate, is that what the easement says? Is that what the town plan says? To come up with something that, to, you know, like to quell dissent, to quiet people down, or?
I'm not an advocate of just
I'm
doing
not-
things to quiet people down.
Pardon me?
I'm not an advocate of doing things just to quiet people down.
No, I know,
Yeah,
yeah. We shouldn't be, you know, I mean, we've got, there are obligations the town has in the easement and.
I think we could tweak the management plan to satisfy the trail folks and still have sign off from the Vermont Land Trust. Right? That's up to them, right? We're not gonna say,
Yeah,
right,
I mean,
hypothetically that
we've
they
already, well, you know, like, we've already hit it, we're protecting part of it and we're providing recreational opportunities. But they didn't say opportunities, just provide recreation, we're expanding recreation.
I thought you were saying that so what are you saying? How does the easement fit?
Cause the primary purposes of the easement, and everything comes back to the first 2 things, it's not a hierarchy. But the first 2 things, if you're looking it up, is first is protect. Got everything, you know, ecology, biodiversity, natural communities. Long list of stuff, that's number 1, number 2, provide recreation.
Yeah, so, yeah,
And
we know,
education.
we know what the easement says, but you're saying that. That what, if we move from where we are, the easement would not allow that, is that what you're saying? If the management plan were to change? Like what,
Well, I think we did the best job we could by adjusting use to capacity, right?
and the easement would not allow an increase in recreational use, is that what you're saying?
Oh, no,
Oh,
no.
then why does the easement why are we worried about the easement right now?
Because if we stray too far, we miss out on
Got you.
the protection.
Yeah, but that, I don't think Sam's advocating for.
No, I'm
straying too
just saying,
far.
we're not even, I'm talking generalities.
Oh.
Not even specific plans.
So there,
But
there is flexibility in the
Oh,
easement
yeah.
to allow for increased levels of recreation.
Oh, sure,
That's, okay, yeah.
absolutely, but because
there was
in the right places is the way I read it. If we're gonna do, because there's friction between those two things, right? Protect, biodiversity, protect natural communities, all that. And provide recreation, there's definitely tension there. And we've got to sort of balance, find a balance in that tension.
And I think
And do both- and do
hypothetically,
both.
if we strayed beyond what the land trust is comfortable with. They would just say no, right? They have voted this, right? Am I wrong about that? That,
Yeah, they have to approve it.
Yeah, they have to approve
As the select board. And I think that both, like former iterations of the management plan, as well as this version, like passed the test for both the conservation easement and what the Vermont Land Trust would sign off on.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we've really deliberated this far beyond like what the, VLT would normally even care about. Like I've talked to, Rebecca Roman about it when we walked in the forest. And she was like, you could put trails wherever as long as you're like following the easement, like we like start putting them right through vernal pools and dry oak forests, then that might be a problem. But as long as we're respecting the easement, I mean, we do have a good amount of play in terms of like what we can do. So
In the town.
Dan had
Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
input.
Oh, I was gonna say, I feel I came away from that meeting feeling like there was a lot of misconceptions or maybe people that hadn't understood the plan, because it felt like a lot of people felt like we were saying no trails. And in fact, what the plan does is gives you a roadmap for how to appropriately site trails. It's not saying no trails, it's saying here are the things. We spent so many meetings talking about how to propose a trail and get it in there. And I felt like the feedback to me was like, you guys are crazy. You're saying no trails. And so I just felt like
I think
there
what
was
was,
a lot of misunderstanding.
but Julian's, departing gripe was the no bites, right, north of power line, even though that's changeable. That I think that's part of this, right? It's no trails and no bites, which is more concrete and more specific. Right, that's part of what people are reacting to.
Yeah, but
Right.
it's often spun as we're anti-recreation, no recreation. There is a lot of misconception or deliberate
Yeah.
misinformation being spread.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
who or what is
Well,
being spawned.
there's a couple of letters you can see. There's just some all right.
Yeah, and again, to me, that's why I think the feedback is, it's folks who wanted to speak up, and maybe we should just be cognizant of this silent, neutral version of town that is, hopefully a little more positive thinking in a lot of this, and not so wrapped up in,
Yeah.
in the thing that they have to come to a meeting and speak, right?
Yeah.
That's my, and so I'm not articulating that
Right.
well or driving that home, but
Right.
I do think our role is to be less reactive to those folks and more cognizant of just the general populace and how they could benefit from this parcel, right? And I know that's a
Benefit from what?
this parcel, the town.
Yes.
forest, You know, and not get so into the nitty gritty of how things are being spun or these,
Yeah.
agendas or what happened 8 years ago or any of that, it's just. Here now, positive, like, we're a team and,
Yeah,
we represent the town and let's
yeah,
figure out the best thing.
that was the spirit of trying to get into that recruitment too.
Yeah, which
It is,
is,
if
yeah,
we're gonna get people, they don't wanna come in and fight,
Yeah,
even though we don't fight among ourselves, but fight with others.
yeah, so to bring it back to, how do we move forward? I agree with Dan in that I feel like I walked away from the meeting feeling like some folks hadn't necessarily read it, they just had feelings about
Yeah.
what they thought the plan said. And I even mentioned it sort of in the opening statement, but the plan does not, preclude the possibility of trail development in the north. And yes, there is currently the moratorium on dogs and bikes, so that is like the most, barring access, like language that exists in the plan. I feel like one way to move forward would be to help show the community that the current plan does work and that we can, build or improve trails within the framework that we've created within the management plan version 2. That plan, the plan that we, published, the draft, that folks were commenting on, is still compatible with the existing plan. So we could operate, within the bounds of both of them and basically show how, like, we can move forward, we can, we can build trails, we can, make improvements, we can do all this stuff. And then that, I feel like, would help, generate some buy-in. I feel like the downside to that is that it is going to extend the timeline, and that, like, this draft is just gonna be sort of sitting there while we basically say, well, let's put it to the test and try to, like, do some, like, boots on the ground. Let's see, like, let's walk out there with the trail development parameters and, like, the buffer map and whatever, and, like, try kind of like what I'm hoping we can get to soon here is what you submitted, Jim, which was like one possibility for, like, what the trail could look like. I think there's a lot to talk about in the context of that, but I think that's a framework that could allow us to move forward in a way that would still be in line without really changing, aside from, we'd have to talk about the, primarily bikes, maybe not dogs thing. Right now, you could potentially build a trail that connected to SIP without changing any of the language in the current management plan.
Right.
Which already had buy-in from, a lot of people in the community, and a lot of the folks that were displeased with it. The biggest complaint that I heard was no connection to SIP and, no bikes. I personally would like to see us, like, move, like, slowly and carefully, but I'm still all for, like, I feel like if we stand behind the work that we did for the plan, if that allows us to move forward with developing the trail that connects to SIP, then, like, that seems awfully hypocritical of us to say, oh, well, actually, never mind, it's like, we don't wanna, like, proceed with this. Like, I feel like we set the buffers, we looked into the science, we basically, separated it all out by, natural community and the buffers, and we have the seasonal stuff, and that was all very carefully thought through. And I feel like if it's possible to put in a trail within, those parameters, then that's exactly what they're there for. And I know we are trying to manage the forest, like, in a slightly different way, where there's less activity in the north and it's more concentrated in the south, but that doesn't mean nobody can use the north. That doesn't mean, like, no trails can go in the north. It just means that we need to adhere to those parameters. But I don't know, like, how possible it is, but I feel
I
like,
do think, I know in the past we've talked about, like. Like, the management plan had to be, and this is before me, but the management plan had to be rewritten because there was this trail proposal, right?
yes,
That was the
Different
impetus.
from the concept.
Right,
Yeah,
and
there's
so I do think. It's healthy to go, like you said, sort of prove this concept. Out while the management plan is still in limbo,
Mhm.
if you will, that they would go together. And I know. I forget how you phrased it, you said something like. Folks expected a trail plan to be enshrined in this new management plan. And which. I don't think we should do, but I think if we can show that there is a process we're gonna follow and an end goal
Yeah,
with a time frame, I think that would very much.
With a time frame. Cause
Yeah,
the
with some sort of-
management plan already has everything you just said, as we've written it.
Well, one of the complaints from the trail constituency, from that faction, right, is that it's been so long with nothing seemingly to change, right? Just this forever circular conversation about the tension between recreation versus wildlife preservation. And so there is talk of we need to have, and I think the select board would agree with this, right? That we need to have a time frame on the conversation about a connection to set, but that would be.
Derek had his hand up.
Oh, yeah, one of these.
It was just from a little while ago, I just wanted to, like, there's a couple things that I don't wanna, I'm here as public, I don't wanna like derail your conversation, I think you're a really important conversation, but. Just in one sort of brief interlude, I tried to use the management plan to lay out a trail to sit, and I couldn't figure it out.
okay,
Like, I couldn't actually figure out if I couldn't do it based upon the rules, like, and. I'm like, I do trail layout for work, I have a mapping background, and like, I couldn't use there's enough, basically. Like buffers and stuff, I couldn't get that all overlaid to a point where I could start drawing a line. And I think I say that in the extent that there's. You overlay buffers and you start to get corridors, but like how you like do a professional layout of a trail that like meets grading, like other user objectives besides just these areas, like I couldn't. Actually get to that point, so I think that was one of my feedbacks initially, was that like I feel like the plan got complex to the point where like I couldn't see an end vision, even though there is potential. I think everyone's articulating well here, like there is ability, but I like couldn't see how you actually could get to that point essentially, or.
So, and that's a problem though, Derek?
Well, so for instance, I personally would like to see that connection, right? So I went to the plan, I said,
Right.
would this be a feasible connection? Like, is the plan as written? Because that's important to me. I'm not saying that it's the way the committee has to go one way or the other, and I couldn't actually figure out if that was something that the current support.
But that was never the objective, to reach a certain point.
No.
The objective was to, control the use to fit the capacity. So you've got the most remote, most sensitive part of the forest. That's why all those buffers are up there. So it's good that, to me, it's a good thing. That if you can't reach sunshine, you can't reach sunshine. I mean, it's just, there are problems inherent with it. Now, maybe Jim may have figured out a way to do it, but I don't see that as, our objective was never, and where the other plan ran into trouble was when they mandated to the supposedly objective consultants that you must reach sunshine, which was never in the plan.
No,
At all. It was in the RFP, but it shouldn't have been in the
Yeah,
RFP.
I appreciate the background, Brad. I think more,
Yeah.
my question would be that, I think if I sat here and asked the committee, would the current plan be able to support a connection? No one could answer that question based upon that, the parameters that are outlined, because it hasn't been looked at to that point. And
yeah,
that doesn't mean that's good or bad, that just means that. Me personally, as someone who is like, would I support or not this plan, that was something that was important to me when I went to look at the plan, I couldn't answer that question for myself either.
Yeah, and then why not? Maybe I might have misunderstood.
Because the amount of buffers and the amount of different like characteristics for the, like where a trail could be sited or not. Was so complex, I couldn't get enough onto my map to figure out how I start to do that layout.
do you,
Okay.
so you have a separate map, I guess I'm curious if there is a buffer map in the plan.
Yeah, no.
We're able to create like a, GIS version of the buffer map that
Yeah, and
could
you
be
can do-
imported.
Yeah.
Then, so that's the biggest hurdle, it's like more of a technical
Right,
one.
exactly, and my initial comment in the public comment is that like, to me, that seems unfair to the public, to like need to have a mapping background to see what is a potential option that you could have for a trail. If we're using that as a point of discussion to say, there's not no recreation forever, it's just that we need to come with proposals. I don't think a proposal should need to come from someone who has GIS skills to import a map to then start to do their own layout. I think my personal opinion is that that should be presented with the plan, like, here are some alternatives, they're not trails that are approved, these are under the current rules, these are potential things that could happen, right? And I think that was what sort of other members were speaking to, like, if you can show the public, here are things that would be allowed under the current, writing, then that's a very different story than, hey, it's a black box, there's potential for ideas, but we don't know what those are, and you are gonna have to think about them, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I definitely heard loud and clear, meaning that, you know, why is nothing happening here? There's very few cars in the parking lot, there's no signs. And part of me feels like there is some agreement, like in this room. And that might be a place to start. In the south, like we have all these trails, we've talked about the boardwalks, we designed some things like. What if we like worked on making that, the stuff that we do agree on, really appealing? And have nice trails down in the south and signage and boardwalks and have it be a place where people can actually get out there, start.
Yeah, I think yes, that's for sure worth, all those things are worth doing and we should do those things, but I think the connectivity piece it's a big one. Right, that's not just gonna go away. With the trails folks.
If we worked on the. You know, we've already started talking about the fast trail. What is about 1,000-foot bypass to that. I mean, that's connectivity,
Sure.
right? And it's close.
It's existing.
It's existing, it's close, it's semi-flagged anyway. I mean, we.
Yeah, no, I think we should pursue an improvement in that, and I've done a lot of work to push that forward, but the connectivity to Sunshine is an important. It's an important item. That doesn't,
To some people.
yeah, to some people.
And that is some of the, like, the main feedback that we got. I think the point is we need to find a way to move forward. That can show, critics of the plan that there are ways forward, and it sounds like there are currently hurdles that, we didn't think about, like Merrick brought up some really good ones in terms of. Okay, when we put this framework into place, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's no way to get a trail in, but we've like sort of unintentionally created a hurdle here by not publishing a map that you could actually use. If you were trying to develop a trail, that, you can just look at the buffer map and then you can use your mapping program and you can kind of try to like look and see if maybe it's compatible, but you don't have a way to, import it and actually do the work to figure out whether or not, a trail will go in. So I feel like if we're trying to work with the community to see, like we need to like act in good faith here. Maybe we need to figure out how to make maps public, that do have, that are, GIS enabled or whatever the terminology is to allow those buffer maps to be able to be used. Because that was part of the intention, was for us to build the rules, then put them on a map. And then let people be able to look at that map and then, see where they are in the forest, or be able to walk a trail, and see, okay, yeah, I'm still like outside of the buffers, or yeah, I'm in Hemlock right now, so this would be, a summer trail, close in the winter or whatever. But I think that that's the kind of feedback we need to be listening to try to work with the community to get more buy-in, because right now. It might not just be the fact that, some folks are unhappy that there's not currently a trail map, enshrined in the management plan. It might be that there's just frustration over the fact that there's a bunch of rules and we're not really enabling people to be able to use it. It almost feels like if you're not sitting on this committee, you might think that we just put those rules in place so that nobody could ever possibly build a trail. And that's like part of what I'm feeling from some of the feedback, is that there was like, either some folks didn't read the plan or we didn't write it well enough and people misunderstood it. And that a lot of people walked away from the plan saying, oh, this is impossible because you put so many rules in place that like, you're never gonna fulfill this stuff. So like, if we can keep the spirit of the plan the way it is, the way that we like designed it to be, but help figure out what those blockers are and make it more, easier to be able to, plan a trail route. And make it more inviting to folks that want to, put trails in, then we should be doing that. Like, that's our job as the committee. So I feel like that allows us to stay true to what we thought was the best plan for the forest. But then also, be inviting to people that like wanna recreate in there more and,
Well, we
see more
should
trails.
then, do that, the technology, the georeference or whatever, georeference? What's the term for a map that?
Yeah, your reference is good, yeah,
Got
that
it
part,
in
yeah.
there. But do those, and also then have workshops, and show people how to use that stuff, would be cool. Come on in, we'll have a Saturday morning seminar on, using this technology.
Or even just a short video that says like,
Or a
you know, that could just be like, here's how you take this map and import it into Avenza. And you can walk around the forest, you know, with your phone and it's gonna show you on the map, you know? Like that's something that I've used before. You can import, you know, the US Geological Survey maps. Like I've used it when I've had no cell service in certain locations, but you could still, if you have the map locally, it'll put your point on the map and you can figure out where you are. So
Yep.
there's gotta be a way to do it. I don't know how personally, but it sounds like that would be a hugely useful tool in terms of helping folks. Look at the plan that we've come up with and, you know, and get some more feedback
Yeah.
on, you know, whether or not what we've come up with is like workable for folks that are looking at things from like a more, you know, recreation angle. And it's like, I think that we should be doing that. We don't wanna be like blocking. Like, we kind of are falling into like the stereotype that critics of the plan have basically said that we're just trying to like jam things up to the point where we can't move forward and we're basically just filibustering. And like that's not, I don't think that's what we're doing. I know we are taking a while to figure this stuff out, but I would like to see you know, more trails get developed and, you know, in, you know, accordance with the management plan that we came up with. Like, I would love to get in there and start building stuff and not just sit here in meetings and talk about it every month, you know? Like, I'm ready to get out there and do stuff, you know, like, so I think that anything that we can do to, you know, help make it more inviting for folks to, you know, wanna like play around and think, and figure out what's possible, of course, and we should do that, so. I don't know what, the next step would be to, you know, to make that happen, but, anyone has ideas in terms of like how we, you know, would generate.
I could make a trail proposal,
You could.
maybe.
Just happened.
It is on the agenda and we have a half an hour, so like, I guess we could wrap up the, our current. Public feedback review stuff, and talk about, you know, what are our takeaways? It sounds like folks wanna see more of a like. You know, document that has all of the data, sort of like. Collated into one place that's like easier to look at, like, how many people seen it before, how many people seem to be against, like, what were the main. What were the main points that people were saying during the meeting, and can we tally them up in terms of sort of like, what are the biggest like pros and cons, you know, so we would know, here are the things that people really liked that we should keep. And here are the things that people really didn't like and what we shouldn't keep.
Yeah.
Like, I can try to generate something like that, that would kind of give us like a list of here are the like, the biggest things that we could do based on the feedback from the folks that spoke at that meeting. But yeah, before we move on to the next item, I wanna make sure that, you know, if anyone has any.
I
More
think
remarks,
that's an important
yeah,
item to do.
Right. And I would just caution that we don't get too broad in it. Cause that was an approach of an earlier committee, and I know being on the outside of the committee, having submitted. Thoughts on the proposal and others had, they were consolidated and synthesized so much as to mean nothing. You know, and they were sort of dismissed to a few words and.
Yeah, I
That was,
personally, I
that's where
think,
the process kind of fell apart.
yeah,
Okay.
personally, I think it's not worth
Okay.
trying to synergize those comments. I think the fact that we were there to listen and that we've looked through all these comments and internalized them, because like you said, everything is unique in the way it's phrased and put across.
Okay.
To just boil it down to a bar chart or, right, I think it's fair to say, what's that?
Do you think we could respond to each one?
I think that in our own way, we will.
Yeah,
Right, how we move forward and I think a lot of these folks are folks that we know and we can engage with them individually and. Yeah, it would be great to respond to each one. That's an awesome idea. I think it's critical personally. I think, it's really what we do now that make them feel like they were heard, right?
yeah, and
So,
heard and thought about. You know, I know in the old days, we were heard, but it's. Swept under the rug. I mean,
yeah, I don't know about.
no discouraging words. This is gonna go. We don't hear anything bad stuff about it. And I think we just gotta address everybody, you know, as negative as they might be or as positive. The negative would be a little harder. Well, I don't think so. But that's all. That's a caution.
Yeah, I think the trick there is like. We. We need to respond as a committee unless we're, assigning people to respond to these comments, in which case, like. Someone's personal opinion, might color that response a little bit, and so I think that. If we're going, that's going to be a lot of work, if we do want to write out and like respond to every single comment, we can. But what we're gonna need to do is like, basically divvy that up. Respond and then like bring it back together and then sort of approve it as a group and then send it out, that seems like a lot of work when we can. Still, I mean, it was a listening session, it wasn't like a, hearing where we needed to, like, I feel like it would almost be easier for us to do that. Take what we heard, come up with talking points. And then because the select board would like us to have a second feedback, meeting or hearing. If we hear the same types of, comments or criticism, then we could respond to it then. But I don't know, is that how we want to spend our time? Like, I don't want people to feel like we're not listening to them, but at the same time, that is going to be a large amount of work, and we do need to consider. The whole committee's opinion and not just like have it be like, okay, well, I'm the chair, so I'm just I'll respond and, hopefully. Whatever my response is in line with what the committee would say.
Yeah.
Because I think you can get yourself into deep water that way by,
Well, maybe
just
there's,
something, reflects the will of the entire committee.
I guess as long as, we responded with some of the hard law questions, would be great. As well as the softball, the easy stuff. And if we did some of those, maybe the biggest ones or the hardest ones. And then included a few of the others that were more substantive.
I think the better path forward is we take the feedback. And then we come up with a list of what we're gonna change about the plan. And then anything that's not going to be integrated in some way, or shaped the way that we're changing the plan, those are the ones we respond to, right? So like, if it's feedback that's actionable, that's something that we think that needs to be integrated. Then the new plan will speak for itself, and that it's answered their concerns. And we're basically absorbing that feedback and we're making the plan better. But then for anything that was, mentioned that is not going to make it into the plan for whatever reason, those are the things that we would say, okay, like, here's what we've changed with the plan since the feedback, cycle. Based on the feedback, like, here's what we've updated. Like this recently happened with, like the wetlands ruling stuff, like there was a bunch of public feedback, they made some changes, and then they like emailed people saying like, here's what we changed based off of the feedback. Not everybody's feedback, is actually gonna make an impact, cause if you've got two people on completely different sides asking for opposite things, like there's no way they're both gonna get what they want, right? But I think what we should be doing is like, actually, thinking about how we need to change the plan, based off of the feedback and not just think about how we're responding to people. Because like, our job is to get this plan to the point where we can get it passed, not just to see like how well we can respond to every comment, because the comments were about the plan.
Gotta keep moving.
That's true.
Are there any other items in terms of, next steps for the public feedback? I mean, it sounds like we've got, potentially come up with a document that kind of helps sort through some of the feedback. It sounds like some people that would be helpful.
I think it's important that we do that because a lot of people put a lot of thought into their comments and I think we need to really digest it.
Cool. And then the other thing is. I mean, I have been interested in doing this, but it's good to hear additional feedback on like getting a map that is more useful, that you could actually import into some kind of program to see like where the buffers.
That was a
map for,
trip down the rabbit hole for me.
What's that?
That was a trip down the rabbit hole for me. I don't know if sort of like what Merrick was speaking to, but we had a map in the management plan and it was just very cumbersome to see what was what.
Yeah, and I think also, another like minor thought, I guess, as we move on to the next topic is like, we probably want to. Not remove, but take the maps that are in the plan and also publish them outside of the plan, because I think some people didn't actually know where to find the maps. And that's something I heard where people are like, well, where are the maps, some folks are saying like, where are the trail maps, which there aren't any, they're just the existing trail maps. And I think we're like, kind of a. I think we've sort of reached consensus that we feel like the plan should have the rules and the map, you know, should be separate because the map. The trails that go in should be in line with the.
But the buffer map.
But the buffer map is, yeah, is helpful, and but having those assets available outside.
You mean like
Especially-
the appendix, you mean, or?
I mean, just like even, you know, just having like a, you know, PDF or whatever kind of map file we wanna generate outside of the plan.
Like on their webpage or?
Yes, because like if you're trying to import it into
That
a
one-
program so you can build a trail.
Yeah.
And all you have is a map embedded in a
Yeah.
60-page PDF, like that's not very helpful, you know, so we need to like. Get those assets out in a way that people could actually maybe use them in some like meaningful way and not just have them buried in a giant doc.
The current map also shows a lot of old logging roads that I'm not sure we should be telling people are pathways, you know?
I guess, but they're also, they serve as a way for people to get their bearings. I think that's the reason we put them in there. It's not just we're trying to drive traffic there, but if somebody wants to use the map and explore the forest.
I think that, I wonder if we should say that.
Yeah, I think it says
Worry
like
that-
logging roads or it says like.
No,
forest
say the
roads.
reason it's there.
Oh,
It's
gotcha.
not
It's a
necessary.
guide, it's not, they're not necessarily,
Promoting.
they're not promoting their use, but it's a guide as to where you are.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
yeah, we can do that. Okay, well, unless there are any other comments on that, I think we should move on, to item E. And I guess, Jim, I'll let you run with this one, and,
Yeah, I mean, I guess my hope here is that we can agree to some sort of compromise that satisfies everyone, satisfies the trail faction, to use that phrase, even though I hate it. And that was my effort here to just think about, okay, what are the items that they care about? What are the things that the pedestrians care about? What's our you know, pledge to the wildlife that aren't sitting at this table, right? And try and mix it all together and have something that works from a recreational perspective, wildlife, and then also is actionable, right? It's not just sucked up into this vortex of you know, talk. That is actually something we can move forward with. And I think my real fear is that this proposal just becomes another divisive talking point, just like Airwood sinuosity was, just like Daniel and Caitlin's proposal that initiated the management plan rewrite, that I wanted to be just as transparent as possible, so that there were no, you know, no spinning, no nothing, and really take the management plan as we've written it and say, okay, can we move forward with a sort of proof of concept, make this connectivity thing a reality and quiet the,
Sip of Sunshine specifically.
yes.
And bikes.
Yes, it's not only that, there's more to it, I think. In order for that to happen, there needs to be some other things that happen naturally. And then,
We'd have to walk away from the bike.
yeah, my proposal,
We'd allow bike traffic.
my proposal, I think could be, we could phrase it in the way that we would be enshrining something in some ways, that we would be demonstrating this goal, a mandate even, right? And to me, I feel like that's not how I would want it to be felt by you guys or anyone, but I think that is how, that is one path forward that would make the people who feel like we're just going round and round in circles, that there is an end game here. There's progress being made. There's something that's gonna happen, even though it's not tomorrow. So, and I think with the connectivity to David Sunshine's as the sort of central domino to this thing. There are some other things that do need to happen. In order to make that work. The lower trails being pedestrian only, that feels like a bit of feedback. I know Melissa used to talk about that the interactions with bikers is a potentially, it creates this feeling that they are not alone out on a trail, right? Oh, sorry.
So, yeah, here's the main part of the forest and here's Sip of Sunshine.
Yep.
So there are 0 trails in this whole area because it's protected by the buffer zones and.
There would be.
Sort of,
There would
it's,
be no more development. There's forest roads in there. It's relatively easy to walk in there.
Okay, all right.
but it's not relatively easy to walk. Right?
It's-
It's not,
Well, it's steep, it's
we're
steep.
not, people are not
It's
going on those logging roads as if they're pedestrian. A trail would be a much different experience, put it that way.
It's long.
so you get more people up there.
Oh, for sure, there would be more people, yeah, that is, we don't have to.
Where there aren't a lot of
pretend
people,
that
where there aren't a lot of people now, we're gonna put more people in.
there would be more than there are now, and I'm not gonna say it's a lot, I don't think it would be a lot. By any metric, and I don't think it should be a lot, that's definitely not a goal of this, I think it would be more than is there now, yes. And I think establishing a number, I picked a number, I don't know, what the proper number is there, I think it's important that that number is flexible and can be controlled and changed. And that it's not, that's.
So it's like 3,000, 4,000 feet of trail that would have to be built. To connect
Yeah.
the northern part of the existing trails to Sip of Sunshine.
Yeah, I don't know the exact feet.
It's in the
For not
neighborhood of
many
that.
And for not many people.
I
Pretty
think,
much
I think we
well-
have to allow Jim to complete a sentence.
Exactly. His whole,
Right.
yeah, go through. Right.
So. Yeah, the idea would be that it would, we would make the lower trails pedestrian only. I think that would be appreciated by the folks that are fearful of getting run over,
Uh-huh.
right? And I don't,
Lower by under
yeah,
that.
and to me, that's the most appropriate place to have pedestrian only trails. So Urbanic, Meadow Meander,
Yes.
Dana's Climb, that network there would just be pedestrian only, that a biker would. Go up the utility road and across the vast trail and not use those existing trails. And I think to me, that's very important. Because there are a small number of people, it's not like that's gonna all of a sudden benefit, 50% of the town, but there's a small number of people that would be a really meaningful benefit for, to know that they could be hiking on the town forest in nature, these amazing views, and not have this tickle in the back of their mind that a biker could come zipping along. I think that would be really well received.
Yeah.
Again, by a small group of people. So that's, I think, critical in this. And then so the next thing would be this goal to build a connection trail to Sip of Sunshine, to David Sunshine's property. And make that something that maybe we don't all agree to it, but it's at least something that, we're not gonna fight. Right, that we collectively say, this
I
is,
disagree. It's just gonna be the longest trail in the entire network.
of the
No.
networks.
No.
I mean,
So that's, Jim provided that. And the vast trail is the longest trail, the old east-west vast trail. You're looking at,
Trail forks.
right, and so it isn't using all of the vast trail on the property.
So there are trails that aren't on the trail forks.
Yeah, that is
no,
correct.
no, I would, I
Well,
think,
it's not taking, Trail Forks isn't taking it to UICC, is it? All the way,
yeah, maybe it's not.
where the hand is not,
So,
anyway.
It's, but
Folks look at the
Sonia, it's
screen.
close. I mean, we're talking just a little bit of a, here, and
I also have, I just brought up.
Jim,
Okay, yeah.
This is what Jim submitted, it's in the packet. right here, this line is the old Vast Trail that goes all the way.
Okay, fair, it's curly and it's really
So,
long, okay,
yeah.
fair, but I'm just saying.
I think your point stands.
I'm
It would
not
even-
arguing against it, I'm
Yeah.
just saying, we have to be like totally clear on what we're taking on here.
Sure, yeah, absolutely, and it's like, but yeah, again, I think, you know, to Wright's point, I feel like we need to let Jim make his case and talk through, because like, he's not even able to really finish.
But
Like,
honestly,
what's on the screen?
the reason I sent this out early and wanted to just be really transparent about it is because I wanted those types of questions. So I don't have like a grand presentation here. I think just feeling out the room and having you guys chime in as you think of things or have concerns or just, that's helpful. So don't feel like, I appreciate it. But yes, it would be a long trail, and I think it would be a long trail, yes, but it would also be a minimally improved trail. It would nothing like, you know, nothing like a boardwalk on the Bass Trail, that type of infrastructure, just something, you know, raked in at a low angle that allowed for minimal erosion, minimal impact, but the ability to hike, run, or bike on it.
Mhm.
That would be the vision as I see it. And I think. So the only other two things are really just having a monitoring strategy. So we know how many people are using it. That's important. And I think that could and should mesh with this wildlife monitoring thing we've talked about for years now. I don't think. I think we can move forward planning for this trail while we also move forward with those things, with the wildlife monitoring in particular. And then the last one is really my read of the select board, which is that they would want progress reports on this, that there would be some sort of a, you know, timeline. And that also, that's not just for them, that's also for the trail community. I think the frustration of duration is real.
It'd be good for anything.
Sure, yeah,
It's good.
but being that this is divisive and it's been an ongoing conversation for so many years, having it be coming up on the select board's radar regularly feels like it would be important. That's all I got. I guess the only other thing I would say is the reason I'm proposing this is in part because I believe in it. I think this is a fair use of the forest. I think it achieves the goals of the easement. I think it achieves the goals of the town. I think it fits with the flavor of recreation in this town and the type of recreation that's already happening throughout town. I think it's in keeping with that. I think it will also quiet that group. I don't know how to phrase that, Merrick. I think if there isn't such a compromise struck, such a proposal as this, a commitment to a connection to sunshine, I think the trails community will seek alternative ways to get this to happen. Petition, survey, I don't know. And I think I guess I've talked to Merrick about this a little bit. If we saw a petition from the trails community, I don't think it would be this trail. I think we'd be looking more at the Arrowwood sinuosity design. I think there's a lot of people in town who feel like this. Did I include that in the packet?
That'd be great.
Or one like it, yeah.
Yeah, I think that is something that's a cross that some people want to die on.
This was the old, this is the twenty
That's the old-
twenty-two plan that was presented, like in the middle school. In early 2023, so. yeah, there are definitely more trails in here, a lot of, and they also go right through a lot of like some of the area that was identified as, should be buffered, at least seasonally buffered. I think this trail got removed after, like, there was some complaints. So basically you could remove this one trail, but still, I believe these trails were designated as pedestrian only. Eventually, it was like, that was one thing that was floated by, I think, maybe Caitlin and Dan, or Daniel, and then. Yeah, these would be multi-use or bike trails. I think one was an uphill, one was a downhill, and then, here's a sit connection. So there's this one versus what Jim's proposing. So that was initially what was proposed, years ago, and then, this is what Jim's proposing. And I'm assuming you just kind of like threw this in on paper. It's not-
Totally, this is just, this obviously, not obviously, my thinking is that this would have to go through this process that we've laid out, which is. Boots on the ground, understanding where the buffers are.
So that's not boots. You
No,
use,
well, the top of it is air with sinuosity.
yep.
Knowing that
Okay.
they had boots on the ground.
Yep.
I felt like that was probably worth just.
Down to that, okay.
That's where the line
buffer.
gets there.
So what you're using, Jim, besides, I know you looked at buffers, and stuff, like topo, or did you just kind of draw the squiggles in there?
What do you mean? Like, did I go out? Well, this is,
Yeah,
this is,
did you-
I
did
think
you
I
walk
asked,
that or at all?
I have walked that.
Okay,
Part of my question, and I think Merrick sort of touched on this, is, that line on the map. Like the buffer, the edge of the buffer doesn't exist in the forest clearly, right? And for some of these stands, it's the county forester, probably Ethan in his time. Making a decision on where one stand ends and another one begins, and it's not always super clear.
Also,
So-
we built the trail deviation process for this
We did.
exact purpose,
But
we're like,
even
there's a
with that-
certain allowance.
Even with that deviation process, you still have to have an understanding of where that line gets drawn,
Yeah.
right? Which is tricky. I realize that, so.
where are the buffers? That's what I couldn't figure out,
Basically.
or where aren't the buffers? Is that the gray?
Yeah, I tried to take the original map
Oh.
in the
okay.
management plan and take away the busyness. And just have one color for the buffers.
I got you. Oh, that
Gray is unbuffered.
Oh, I didn't understand.
Yeah, stream buffer, this is a seasonal hemlock buffer, because it's lighter colored. And then this is also looks like a seasonal hemlock buffer, and then looks like a buffer, but keep in mind, this section here. This was like the reserve zone, which was kind of put on the map, and it was suggested. In the management plan that we try to avoid it, but it wasn't explicitly disallowed in the same ways that say dry oak. Or like a vernal pool.
It's recommended in forestry plan.
Yes,
It's Ethan's recommendation, yeah, and I think. That was, I emailed you guys my confusion about that reserve zone, because I was not here for that meeting when that was figured out and I think if those reserve zones are gonna be included in. These other, hemlock, dry oak, wetlands, etc., it should be a little more. Explicit as to what is
Defined.
Yeah, because on our current management plan, it just says reserve zone, just it's a side.
yeah, so I just wanna note that we are coming up on time, I'm happy to go a bit more if folks want to, I would like to. Talk about this in a way that we can come up with a next steps, cause we could obviously talk about this for, the next hour, right? The text that Jim suggested, looking at the maps, talking about the old ones versus the new ones and the buffers and all that, I know this committee enough and myself that we could talk about this for a lot longer. So I'd like to be able to have something actionable for us to move forward with. So I do have comments on a lot of the text, which I won't go through now, just because I don't know if we have time for that unless we're gonna extend the meeting. But I do think that the next step.
I think you need to get, before you as the co-chair, I think you need comments from others, maybe,
Sure.
so that you're not steering too much.
Sure, I mean, I guess I can, yeah.
Just a
folks-
thought, just a
Yeah,
thought.
folks can disagree with me, I guess I'm not saying what we have to do, but I'm saying it would be nice if I don't wanna just say, okay, we're closing the meeting, and so I guess we're just gonna talk about this next time and not do anything.
Well, wouldn't this though just go into the? I don't know,
I'm pushing you, I apologize.
Sure, no,
Trying to-
no, please do.
what's a better word? I don't wanna use this word, I'll use it, forget the implication, into the hopper. With the other suggestions we've had, I mean, it's a concrete, thought out suggestion. Like others might have, and we deal with it there. Instead of, elevating and putting it in front of all the feedback we got from everybody else.
Well, where's there?
There,
Yeah, I would,
in this bunch of comments that we're gonna be responding to, right? You're gonna.
Sure,
Look
but-
at those, the written, the oral.
Yeah.
my expectation is that this would be both. That, this could be tweaked, whatever, we could talk, but we should vote on this.
Ahead of voting on what the Conservation Commission said, or what Paul Hoff said, I mean, and what Merritt said. I
Brad,
mean,
this is a committee
yeah,
and we vote. Right, that's the rules
So-
of the game.
no, I know.
I'm just saying.
We
that was my
probably have that
expectation.
power, but what is that gonna say to the?
We don't
people who said-
have to. I'm
I
not saying.
agree, I think that this is a very interesting idea.
Yeah.
But it's premature to vote on it, because we need to digest all this feedback that we got and be respectful of that, and just like jumping ahead, this feels like worth considering, but it feels premature. And I wouldn't be comfortable voting on it until we digest and have time to look at all the feedback that we got.
We have a feedback. We've had it for,
We haven't read it, I mean, people haven't even,
we haven't read
they
it.
haven't read the letters. Right? I mean, they were searching for those. How many people really went through that, and we discussed all those, like we want to discuss.
It was on the agenda. I thought if we were doing.
Well, it doesn't mean we dismiss all that stuff in favor of what it.
Oh, this was in response to that
I
stuff.
also think
This is
that
absolutely.
we need substantially more discussion before we can vote on it. It's already 8 o'clock.
Yeah, right, do you have a comment?
Yeah.
I think, right, and then I wanna speak for a second, and then.
Yeah.
So,
Can you go back to the one with the 3? Yeah, so first of all, this committee in its current grouping, that sounds right, members is amazing, because we can talk about these topics where we are, well, there's 6 of us, so it would be whatever the vote is. It's not gonna be 6-0, it's gonna be whatever it is. And in a very civil fashion, and that has not been by and large the situation with this committee in years past. I was at a committee meeting, I don't know, gosh, it seems like 100 years ago, it was probably 8 years ago or 5 years ago. When we were voting on a majority of the committee, no, like 50% of the committee wanted 3 trails. And we were duking it out in a committee room. And I said, I was in the minority, I said, I think Caitlin and I were in the minority, and I said, 3's too many, let's have 1. And I don't know which one I picked one of them, because I knew I was gonna, whatever way it was voted, we were gonna have 1 trail, 3 trails or 1 trail or 2 trails. Well, the committee meeting just literally blew up at that point, and everybody ran out of the room. Because we could not. We didn't work well enough together to have a conversation about 1 versus 3. It had to be 3. I feel. If we're gonna have a conversation about a trail to sip of sunshine. This is the right group to have it with, because it's gonna be a thoughtful conversation. If we push it off, and I don't know what the answer will be. I don't know if we'll have one or we won't have one. But if we wait for 5 years and just push it down the road, this whole committee is gonna change. There will be a trail there, I think. at some point, because I don't wanna be on this committee forever. I've enjoyed it, but I think there will be a trail. So I think this proposal in its early stages has merit and needs deep conversation. So that if we feel the community needs this trail, it is designed in such a way that it is the best trail for ecological reasons. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, very well said.
And not well said, but that's my
It
2
was well
cents.
said.
I think it was, yeah, quite well said, and I tend to agree and think that this does need some more discussion. Certainly in full committee so that we could, talk about it and vote on it. I also have thoughts, like, I was thinking that maybe it would be helpful to meet in a smaller group to kind of refine it and to come up with something that, might be more universally, popular, both like on the committee and in the community. I think this is an excellent basis for like discussion moving forward. I do see this as a response to a lot of the comments. I don't think that this is us just throwing out all the comments that folks, emailed in and said in the last meeting. I think this is something that is consistent with the management plan that people supported, but also helps it, achieve some of the goals and, addresses some of the complaints that we heard from folks at that feedback meeting. So I would like to see us talk about this more in the future. I think it would be helpful if there was some more work done on it outside of committee time in a sub forum to refine it and to get it to a place where we feel like it's, we're going to do less talking back and forth about it as a group, and we can it can be presented in a way where people can all have, hopefully at least a week, maybe more, to read through it, process it, really be thoughtful about, what they think about it, so that it's not something that's getting discussed sort of, for the first time in a full committee meeting.
Do you think we could shoot for a vote next meeting?
I think ultimately folks can make a proposal, and if there's a second and then there's a discussion, and we can vote anytime, we could vote right now, but
Yeah,
like.
I know, and I'm getting the sense that it's premature, and that's, it's not the right time to. It might be the right group, but it's the wrong moment to vote, and that there should be some wordsmithing and more tweaking
I think
done.
it's that, and I think it's a strategy. We need to think about so if this were to proceed, there's gonna, the conservation community could be, I get a fair amount of emails from the mountain bike community that is unsavory. Well, that could completely shift to the conservation community. Maybe a different group of people, but we need to be thoughtful and be strategic and not necessarily patient, but have more conversations about it.
And I think some of it's about presentation, right? So whether or not we're going to be ready to, vote on this next meeting or, 6 meetings from now is all gonna depend on how it's presented. And I feel like the more thorough and clearly it's presented with parameters that help make people feel comfortable to move forward with it, that's going to lead to a better result at a faster pace, in my opinion. Whereas if it's something that's less, if it's a little bit more nebulous and all the details aren't worked out, then folks are gonna be like, well, I can see like different ways that this might, that this could be used in one way or another way, and I just think it just needs a little bit more.
So I guess where is maybe you could speak to this, Merrick, where is the point where a petition gets started? And the select board is seeing something that's not from us. That's a proposal.
I don't know.
It could be tomorrow.
I'm happy,
Well, that-
I'm happy to speak if the committee wants me to speak to this.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, by no means is this like, I appreciate Jim, I was happy to be in the other room and like, I'm glad I came over and like, just. What I was at the last public meeting, I provided comment.
Yep.
I sent around to a bunch of my friends who care about this and said, hey, there's a public meeting, like, if you take a look at this, submit your feedback sort of thing, and I had a lot of people say can't attend. And I shared that comment that I thought a lot of people weren't able to attend. And I discussed with a number of people that I think there's a lot of people that would like to see meaningful access in this area. A lot of people shared that. And a lot more of them weren't at that meeting, I think, then, and did submit written comment that have that feeling. And I'd be happy to help collate their information and present that information to the committee. And to be honest, I probably would just do it through the select board in an official petition as part of a number of people that talked to, like me spearheading with a number of people to do that, just to add some direction where I think that there is like true valid amount of public comment. And that's by no means, I think, what this is being presented, and like obviously I'm in like somewhat favor as someone who's in the trails committee. I think there's like reasonable means to compromise. I think test the plan as written by this committee, and I think that's great. But honestly, like the more it stalls, the more I'm apt to someone who like wants to see meaningful access just to like move forward with that aspect of this. So I think seeing it delay longer, and it doesn't, I don't want it, it's not trying to be a storm cloud, but it's more just that like this is something that I feel passionate about, and I think that like others do as well, and want to see like something happen a little bit, so.
Yeah, if you don't mind me asking, if you were gonna, collate the data presented to the select board as a petition, I guess I guess it would depend on the feedback, but I'm curious, like, what, if the petition would be just to get a trail in, I think some folks at the public comment had talked about, we should go back and vote on the former management plan. I guess I'm curious, like, what that type of action might look like.
Totally, and I think that's kind of at a point where there's been so many people who are energized about this process and like the potential, and I think no real decision about like what that might look like. And I think like there's maps with a bunch of trails, maps with one, and I think the more that honestly, like on this end, that it seems like nothing's gonna move forward, the more it could be like, oh, let's just go back to square one. That seems silly, right? There's so much work that's gonna put into it.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think it's more about like, is there a meaningful path forward? Does it look like there's a path forward? Or not? And I think I was just sharing my personal thing is like, I couldn't figure out if there was a path forward, and that's where I get stuck.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, I appreciate those
Gang,
comments.
I'm not upset, I'm not running out of the room.
Yeah, I go.
I have to go.
Okay.
Before it gets dark.
Alright, well, yeah, we'll wrap up in just a second. We still have
I
a
think
forum here.
more conversation would be a good thing.
I agree. And
Do you want me to hook the headlights on your car up?
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate you being straightforward with how you would move forward, Merrick. And I guess I would say, I also would, if you're comfortable, would encourage you to, I don't know, talk more with folks like me and Jim, and I'd love to hear like direct feedback, because we do want to take that feedback, and I don't know, I don't really want to like see this turn into another like town-wide upheaval. Obviously, it got very messy back in, I think, 2023, when like half the committee, resigned or didn't, re-up their terms, and that's what kind of kicked off this whole like new, iteration of the plan. And I feel like Jim is onto something, like, and that there is a way to move forward here. I don't think we're just trying to stall. But ultimately, if you decide, a petition makes the most sense, like, I think that's fine too. I think that we've thought enough about this plan that, like, if it did come to that, like, I'm also comfortable, advocating for this plan and, talking to folks, in the public about it as well. So like, I think that ultimately we can probably come to some kind of,
I think
happy agreement.
I really hope that too, and I think, like, honestly, I see a lot in this, of that, like, the folks who showed up to that meeting, mostly who were like there to speak to trails, were not there and saying like, we want the old management plan, this trail plan.
Yeah.
And I feel like that, to me, seems like a compromise, and like the community has been reached, like, hey, there's a lot of people that had really strong feelings on both sides, and like, we probably have to end up somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And that's how I view it, and that's not how everyone needs to view it, but I think that's more where I come from, and like, I'd love to see like maybe one trail that like people really rally around, like, wow, we did a really good job with this and really thought it through.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's not everyone, but I think it'd be, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's,
It's messy,
it is, I mean, we keep finding ourselves at sort of loggerheads, and I think that we gotta find a way to move forward, so I think we're getting, much closer to that. So I guess with that, we are over time, by 12 minutes, we do need to wrap things up. I do think, we can talk about this, next meeting, along with, maybe round two of talking about the feedback and maybe how that feedback, does or does not, sync up with, this proposal. I guess we don't necessarily need to assign a group, but I guess I will just say, like, straight up, like, I'm interested in working with you directly,
Yeah.
Jim, on talking about this further. To, tell you what some of my concerns are and like what I think might, be
Can we
something
do
that's a
that?
little bit more palatable to like the community as a whole. And-
Can we commit to that, to meeting?
Yeah, I know.
Doing it?
There's, there's nothing.
So we're
stopping us.
we're at 6. When we're down to 5.
Yep,
You two can only meet.
yes, when we,
So we got,
no, it's actually based off.
that's what I said, you can't bring a third in.
That's actually not true, it's based on the number of seats, it's not based on the current number of seat
Oh.
members.
Oh,
So,
okay,
this committee
All right.
is 9. Yeah, the committee
All
is
right,
9,
so you can have
quorum
4
is
then.
5, so technically you had 4,
Could-
we've never gone over 3, just because people tend to start to get nervous, and we also. We're not doing subcommittee work, per the, Vermont League of Cities and Towns, like. It's a working group, and it must be, below quorum, but 3 people in this room who are on the committee could meet and talk about this, if we would like to.
Is there any way, Brad, you would be willing to be a part of that conversation? Does that, I mean, I don't.
The old gang back together.
Yeah, I know.
The 3 of us, remember, back in the.
Yeah, we can meet in the lunch.
Yeah.
I can be his proxy and work, Brad is incredibly busy right now.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
It is no stretch.
All right, and you guys are talking about the viability and moving parts of the connector trail,
Basically,
Yeah, I'm not trying to
finding-
take something,
yeah.
but you are.
just for the minutes.
I know
Is that what
that.
you're,
You
yeah,
know what's going on.
I mean, this is just a working group to explore and refine, what Jim's talking about and how we move forward. And if, this type of trail proposal is an appropriate step forward in response to the, feedback that we got in June. And like, it sounds like people are open to discussing this, but want some more discussion, want some more detail, and I think that as we've learned, as we've developed the management plan, we get so much more done when we have a working group, we do the work, we bring it back, and then we discuss. This, I really appreciate all the work that Jim's done, and this is, I think, a step in the right direction, but because this is new to some folks here, it's really hard to get, get resolution. It's like we were all trying to edit the same paragraph and doc at the same time. It just didn't work. We had to go through, do the work, and then just basically approve, edits. So my wish would be, you meet about this soon, and then we get something out to the committee well, like ideally a couple weeks in advance, so people can mull it over. Maybe at least, rather than just like a few days, like or a weekend. And then that way we can come back and we can have a productive discussion about this and figure out, what the next steps are. I'm sure it won't be the only item on our next agenda, but I think that's a good next step, and then we can take it from there. But that said, I think we should move on to closing up the meeting.
The next meeting is what, 24th or 30th?
It's the 24th, it's we meet on the 4th Monday of
Oh,
every
that's right, okay.
not the last Monday. So yeah, 24th. Which is 3 weeks, because this got bumped out, so I guess we probably wanna meet soon, like this week.
I can do this week.
Yeah, we can sync up separately, I guess, did we determine what people are meeting, is it just, is it?
Yeah, Brad, do you wanna, I'm not trying to take something from you.
No, yeah. No, it is a crazy week.
and there's no issues with zooming in with the
Quorum?
quorum issue.
Not
The
at all,
minutes, okay.
yeah, as long as people are here either in person or virtual, it doesn't matter. I mean, I will be here to start the meeting, everyone else could be virtual, and that's a quorum. As long as we have our 5. So, I guess the 3 of us can coordinate, do we wanna do that right now, or we can do it separately? I'm not sure if I can give a hard date, I could give like general availability.
I move to adjourn.
Yeah, we'll say that, we'll think about it. All right, all in favor? Okay, well, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.